Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's tutorial was really inspired about Valentine's Day. I wanted to do something a little bit more dramatic, something with a little bit more of a bold look to it. I went with a red metallic lipstick, which I think looks stunning and would look stunning on so many different skin types, skin tones. So I also wanted to let you guys know that I will be actually doing another tutorial for another Valentine's look that's not going to be as dramatic. So if you're looking for something that was a little bit more girly, not so bold, not so dramatic, I do have something coming for you guys, so stay tuned for that. But before you guys leave, be sure to subscribe, and before I waste any more time, let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so I already went ahead and actually primed my lids. I used the Smashbox Photo Finish Lid Primer. I really like this because it has a skin tone color, so when it comes out, it's actually like a nude skin tone color. So it cancels out any discoloration in the lids, whether your veins show through or you have redness or maybe darkness. This kind of helps brighten and balance everything out. I really like to wear that also when I don't want to wear a full face of makeup. It kind of just like makes my lids look like there's something on it, but it wasn't a ton of work and it's just simple and easy. So that's one of my favorite primers. So going forward, I am going to be working from the Jaclyn Hill palette. I'm really excited. I wanted to do, obviously, a Valentine's look, and when I look at this palette, I think that there's so many options to play with. It's just like an overall just good palette to use. So I'm going to be working from this palette today. To set my eye primer, because that palette actually doesn't have like a matte base shade for me, I'm going to just be using my setting powder. This is the Too Faced Candy Johnson Banana Pudding Powder. So I'm just going to take this guy on a flat shadow brush, and all I'm going to do is just set that primer so that it's easier for me to blend out other shades. You guys know the drill. You know the drill. I also already have my brows on, in case you're wondering. Yes, my brows are already done. Okay, so I went ahead and just did one eye so that I knew exactly how to take you through all these steps that I want to do. The first thing that we're going to do is jump into the palette and pick up this really nice matte shade right here in the palette. And we're going to pick that up on a nice big fluffy crease brush. Sorry, I see that this hair is doing something crazy. It's got a mind of its own, don't mind it. So I'm just going to go into the palette, and instead of like swirling it around, I'm literally just going to dab into it, tap off the excess, and I'm going to run this in the upper crease area. Windshield wiper motions, and also going in circular motions as well. And then I'm just going to go back into the palette, tap off the excess, and just build up that color nice and slowly. You don't want to move too quickly when it comes to more dramatic eyeshadow looks, because it's a lot easier to add the pigment than it is going to be to take away pigment. Switching to another fluffy crease brush. This is the Morphe M573 brush. I'm going to go back into the palette and pick up this matte brown shade right here. And I'm going to focus this shade more directly and tighter into the crease, so not as high as that very first shade that we just used. And take note of how I'm holding my brush. I always hold it towards the end, first of all, because if you hold it too close, you can't blend it out. It's going to look a lot more harsh looking, so you want to go easy on the brush. So hold the handle down towards the end and let the brush do the work for you. So again, left to right motions and circular motions. In this color, I'm focusing more towards the actual crease and just hugging that shape of my eye. So bringing it from the outer corner into the inner corner as well. I am kind of lifting the brow to make sure that I, excuse me, that I get into the inner corner here. Switching to a different brush, this is the Morphe E36 brush. It's a really tight, small little dome brush. You're going to want to use something really defined for this next part because you don't want it to be too messy, but it doesn't need to be too perfect. Don't worry, because we're going to cut the crease a little, so I'll show you what we're going to do. We're going to pick up this shade right here in the palette. It's this beautiful matte brown warm shade. So all I'm doing is just picking up, dipping it in 3 times, tapping off the excess. And what I'm going to do is, you want to have a handheld mirror because this step is going to be easier if you have something to kind of maneuver instead of standing at a mirror where you have to look straight ahead. You're going to want to bring the mirror down so you can see a little bit easier. So all I'm going to do is focus this shade really tightly into the crease. It's okay if it doesn't look perfect because, again, we're going to cut the crease, so don't worry below. Don't worry so much about your lid. But don't bring it too high. I mean, at least for me, this look I wanted, I didn't want it to be too high. So I'm just running this from the inner corner to the outer. Just making sure it looks kind of even with the other eye. And I'm bringing it just above my natural crease so that when I look straight ahead, you can still see that color in the crease. And don't worry about blending with this brush because we're gonna go in with a different brush to blend. Don't use the same brushes to do so many jobs. That didn't make sense. But don't use like this brush to apply the color, spread it out, and blend it because you can use a different brush to blend with. Otherwise, sometimes it starts to look really muddy. It doesn't really have dimension. So now what I'm gonna do is go back in with that second one that we just used for the crease, and all I'm going to do with no additional product is just blend out the top of that color here. And you can see that this brush is really starting to blend it together, whereas that really defined small brush is not gonna do that for you. So now that we have it a little bit more blended out now, I'm gonna switch to a really, really small, tight, flat shadow brush. This is the Morphe M124 brush. So it's a very, very tiny little flat shadow brush. You're gonna wanna use something like this. What I'm gonna do is go in with my concealer. This is the Smashbox 24 Hour Skin Studio Concealer. And I'm gonna put just a little bit on the back of my hand. I'm gonna pick up a decent amount on my brush. And again, with my head tilted back, we're gonna start to cut the crease. So I like to place my brush, instead of drawing like a straight line to cut it, I kind of like to place it and drag it down. It's usually a little bit easier for me to cut the crease that way. So again, picking up just a little bit more product. And what I do is when I place the concealer, so I'll show you real quick, I'll just place it right here, and then I'll go ahead and look straight ahead. And now I can see where the line is. See, it just like moved for me. So I can see where I'm going to need to bring up the concealer to. And it pretty much just literally did the work for me. So again, just placing it and kind of dragging it down is going to be the easiest way to do a cut crease. And once we get out to the outer edges of my eye, I'm not going to really worry about blending it out. So don't stress about it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I am going to use another shadow over top of this. So it's okay if you make minor mistakes. Don't stress. It will honestly all come together. So we should have something that looks like that. So going back into the Morphe palette, the shadow that I'm going to use is this shade right here. It's this beautiful bronzy champagne taupey matte, or matte, not matte, it's a shimmer shade. So I'm going to use that same Morphe M124 flat shadow brush. I'm just going to get my brush really saturated with that color, tap off the excess, and I am literally just going to start packing this right over top of our concealer. Making sure to bring it all the way up to where that concealer line ends here. And I'm literally just gonna be building up this color. The shade is so beautiful. The shadows in this palette are really nice. If you've never used this palette, most of Morphe stuff is really pigmented and really nice. And very, very affordable. They are sold in Ultas now. So you don't have to only shop online, you can go see it in store too. And then once you have that color on, we're gonna hop back into the palette and pick up that shade that we used in the crease with that really tight, small brush. I'm gonna pick up that color again, just a little bit. So what we're gonna do here is take that brush and just lightly go over the edge right where that concealer ended, that little line where we just placed the concealer and that shadow. And all I'm doing is just taking the teeniest amount and just lightly dusting over top of that line just so it looks a little bit more, I don't want this one to look so harsh, the cut crease. So I'm just softening that line a little bit. Don't worry about the blending, just place the color where you need to with this brush. And again, we'll use something else to blend. So I'm gonna use this nice crease brush with no additional product. And all I'm going to do is just blend out that shade so it doesn't look as harsh, looks a little bit more soft and diffused. And just taking your time with these shades because you don't want to start blending too wide, meaning if you just like go in and have like huge circles, the colors will start to kind of come together and it'll start to look muddy. I cannot talk today. So making sure to just keep really tight motions right where you want the product to stay. So that's why I'm not really using big, wide circular motions here. I'm just using really tight. The palette here, we're gonna pick up this really, really intense black matte shadow right here. This is just a bullet brush. So all I'm going to do is pack this. As you'll notice, I'm packing and placing this black color right on the edge of my eye here. So I'm using patting motions to really get the intensity on that corner that I'm looking for. And then we will go in and blend with a different brush. So I'm gonna go in with another crease brush. This is the Morphe M433 brush. And all I'm going to do is just dip into this shade right here, which is a matte brown shadow. So just picking up a little bit. These are really, really pigmented, so I don't need to pick up a lot of product. And all I'm going to do is place that again on the outer edge, but just lightly blend out the edges. And I want the edge to be pretty intense. That's why I'm using the brown to blend out that black shade, because I don't want to lose the intensity of that color. And again, it's just using those tight circular motions. You don't want this color to go too far anywhere that you don't want it to go. And then from here, I'm going to pick up another crease brush. And that doesn't have any additional product, nothing on it, and I'm just lightly gonna go over that edge so that everything looks a little bit softer. As you can tell from the other eye, I am gonna pop on some black winged liner, so I'm gonna do that really quick. Okay, so now that the other eye is even, I'm gonna pop on some lashes, and these are new to me. This is by the brand Pure in the style Socialite. And there are these beautiful looking They are these beautiful looking lashes right here. Sorry, I am dropping everything. They look really nice and fluffy, but not overly dramatic. I want to be able to see the shadow, so I don't want anything like too crazy. So I'm gonna pop these on really quick. Okay, obsessed with those lashes. They are beautiful and nice and fluffy, exactly what I was hoping for. So we're gonna move on to the rest of the face. I'm gonna start by priming my face using the Smashbox Radiance Primer. I use about a pea-size amount and then obviously massage this into the skin. And because I wanna be extra glowy for this look, I am going to use a highlighting stick. This is by Too Faced. This was the Candy Johnson. I unfortunately don't think that you can get this anymore, but you can use anything. There's also the Laura Geller Easy Illuminating Stick. This is in the shade Ballerina. This is another one of my favorites. Both of these would be great options, either one, but I'm just gonna use this one. So I'm just going to put this on my face where I normally would want a glow, just to give my skin, when I put my foundation, just a little bit extra glowiness. I know it looks insane, like don't worry, but like when it all blends out, you don't notice it. It just looks really seamless and glowy. Oh my gosh, I forgot that this smells like vanilla cupcakes. It smells good. And for my foundation today, I do want something that is more medium to full coverage. So I'm gonna be using the Smashbox Studio Skin 15-Hour Wear Foundation. I'm gonna be using the shade 1.1. I'm gonna take that on a Real Techniques, no, this is not Real Techniques, this is Eco Tools sponge. So I'm just gonna take a few pumps of that and apply this to my face. For concealer, you guessed it, I'm going to be using the Smashbox 24-Hour Skin Concealer. This is in the shade Fair Light. I'm going to use cream contour today, so I'm actually going to be using a Smashbox palette. I believe that this is one of the holiday palettes, but it has like a little sleeve, so it pops out here, which is really nice. It's really great to travel with. But you can use any cream contour, or if you're going to use a powder contour, just go ahead and use some sort of powder to set your face right now, and then just go in with your powder contour. But for right now, just because I feel like being extra glam today for this Valentine's look, I'm just going to be using a cream contour instead. So I'm going to go in with the contour shade right here in the palette, and I'm just going to use my sponge here. And I can actually see, I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, but I can actually see that illuminating stick that we used in the beginning before we applied our foundation, and that's what I'm saying, like it just leaves this beautiful nice glow, but you can't see it, like you can't see the glow like sitting on the skin. It just looks like it's sitting underneath, so it looks a little bit more natural. I enjoy having it like that when I feel like being extra glam, so I figured for Valentine's Day tutorial, why not go extra? Definitely contouring my beautiful big forehead that the Lord blessed me with. And I'm gonna go ahead and flip the Eco Tool sponge in using where I used my foundation. And I'm just gonna lightly go over the edges of every contour area that we just contoured, so it looks a little bit more seamless and blended. Just an easy way to make sure we didn't make any mistakes. And then, like I said, I'm gonna blend out my nose contour and just using a big, this is actually by It Cosmetics, the number 203 blending concealer brush. So I'm actually gonna be blending mine up almost into my brow. And what that does is actually gives like a more defined, slim nose when you bring it up like from the corner of the brow. It makes it makes the nose look a little longer. And then I'm just gonna re-highlight the middle of my nose real quick. I meant to do this earlier, but I actually forgot. So I'm gonna use the side where you didn't use the contour, obviously. I'm gonna use this other flat side, and what I'm going to do is go underneath my eyes and make sure that there's no creasing because I want to bake. So what you want to do is go in with your powder. This is the Laura Mercier Translucent Loose Setting Powder. I just have the travel size one because it's a lot easier for me to travel on set with. And I'm going to be using this and picking up a decent amount of powder on your sponge, making sure that you're not creased, because if you set this with creases, you're going to be creased all day long. So I'm going to go ahead and start baking. So I'm going to be placing this right underneath my eye. And making sure to use a lot of product because that is what the whole baking process is. And it also helps you from not creasing all day long. And another thing I'm going to do is actually do it right underneath my contour to help like sharpen it up so it looks like extra crease, extra sharp. Okay, and once you look crazy, you know you did it right. So we're just going to let that sit for a little bit. I let mine sit usually for about like 10 minutes probably. I usually fill in my brows right now, but since I already have my brows filled in, I'm just gonna pop on some liner. I'm gonna use a black a black crayon liner. You can use anything that you already have. I'm going to be lining my waterline while we wait for that bake to dry, or to kind of set in really. While we're also waiting for that to keep setting in, I'm gonna pop on some blush. This is by Wet n Wild in the shade Rose Champagne. It's this beautiful like neutral shade. Rose? I don't know where the rose comes from, but it definitely looks like a champagne shade to me. I really like this. It's a very faint blush, which I like, especially for this kind of look, because I am going to go a little bit more dramatic on the lips probably. I'm going to pick up a blush brush, just pick up a little bit of that, this on to my cheeks here. And this blush is really nice because it actually does have a little bit of a shimmer to it. It's not really sparkly, but it really leaves the skin like a nice sheen to it. Okay, and so now that we let that kind of sit in place, we're just going to take a big fluffy powder brush and just dust away any excess that hasn't set in. And I kind of just take my powder brush and just lightly dust over the entire face, because if there is any like powder that is on this brush, it will kind of just set the entire face into place. I'm going to go ahead and bronze up the skin using my favorite bronzer right now. This is by Physicians Formula in the shade Bronzer. This is amazing. Just taking a big brush here and just warming up my face. And for highlighter, I'm going to be using the Becca highlighter in the shade Opal. Mine is actually broken, but it still works just fine. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of this and popping this on the tops of my cheekbones here for a little bit of some glow. I also kind of bring it around my brow a little bit. This product goes a really long way, so you don't really need to like dig into your products. I'm going to take a crease brush and just hop back into the palette. I'm going to pick up this very first shade that we used in the crease. And all I'm going to do is just dust this along my lower lashes to kind of make it a little bit more of a smoked out look. It's very faint, but I think it looks really pretty, especially for more of this dramatic Valentine's look. I'm also going to take the highlight that we used on our face. I'm going to pop this on the inner corners. So I'm just going to take a flat shadow brush here and just pop this right on my inner corners here, just to bring a little bit of brightness. Okay, and for lips, I'm going to be using my favorite lip liner. This is by NYX in the shade 810 Natural. I'm just going to line my lips really quick and then we'll move on to the lip shade that we're using. Okay, so now that our lips are lined, we are going to be using this shade right here. I am obsessed with this shade. This is by Smashbox. This is in the shade Crimson Chrome, and it is this beautiful metallic looking shade. It's stunning. They have so many shades. I just love this. So I'm going to be using this as my lip color today. Then once you have that color on, the last step, well, second to last, because you know I'm going to use a setting spray, but the next step that I'm going to use is mascara. This is the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. I'm going to be popping this on my lower lashes. And then, you know, the very last step is my Pixi Glow Mist setting spray. I'm going to be setting my face. And then I quickly fan it so that it like seals in quicker. It prolongs your makeup throughout the day as well. That's it, you guys. That completes this tutorial. I really hope that you guys enjoy. Be sure to leave a comment down below letting me know what you'd like to see next. I do plan on filming a makeup tutorial that is going to be for Valentine's Day, but maybe not so dramatic, because I know that this is obviously a lot more dramatic than maybe some people would want to wear. So I do plan on doing something a little bit more wearable, maybe something a little bit more comfortable, maybe not a metallic red lip, because I know that that's probably like stepping out of a lot of people's comfort zones. But you know me, I'm into makeup, I'm a makeup artist, so I will wear just about anything. But I want to let you know that I do plan to make a video for you guys that is a little bit more wearable if that's something that you're interested in. But be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any more videos, and until next time, I'll see you soon.